What's going on, guys? Welcome back to part 5 of a series where we're building a social media with React and Django. In the previous video we created the functionality to follow and unfollow users, but in this video we're going to be building the user posts in the backend and front end, which also includes the functionality to like and unlike users' posts. But just before we get started, a lot of effort goes into this series, so if you could like and comment on the video and then subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, it supports me to keep making these tutorials. So with that said, let's get into it. I'm back in my Visual Studio Code, and the first thing we want to do is head into our models.py file in our Django app so we can start building out our model for our post. So if we go into our file in backend and base, we can go to our models.py file. You can see we have the model we created earlier for our myUser. We can create a new one called post. And instead of abstract user, which was extending the default Django user model, we're just going to be creating a normal model. So we do this with models.model in the class here. Then we're going to do the same here where we put our attributes, and we're going to have 4 attributes for our post model. We're going to have the user who owns the post, we're going to have the description of the post, we're going to have the date it was created, and then an array of users who have liked it, so it's likes. So we start off with our user attribute. Now we want our user to be able to own multiple posts, so we can do this through something called a foreign key, where the user owns the post, okay, and it's a one-to-many field, so a user can own multiple posts. So build that out here, just like this, and it's related to my user. Then we also need to state what happens if the user that owns this post is deleted, and if that happens, we want the post to be deleted with the user, okay. So on delete, we'll do models.cascade, and then we'll give it a related name called posts, and that means we can access the user's posts directly from the myUser model, okay, and we'll be using that later. Next thing we'll do is our description, which is going to be a char field. So just like we did the bio, we'll do models.char field, say max length is 400 characters, and then they'll also have the date it was created, so we'll call that created at, and it needs to be created at when the post is created, so when the post is put into our database. So we can do models.dateField, and then just auto now add set to true, so it's going to set to the time and date the post was created. Then the next one's going to be the likes, which is going to be a many-to-many field, just like our followers, as a user can have many likes, and likes is an array of many users, okay. So we'll do likes equals models.many to many. We'll put in my user, as the likes is going to be an array of users, and then the related name is going to be post_likes, and then blank is true, as when the post is created there can be 0 users liking this post. So now we've built out our post model, we need to build out a serializer for our model so that we can send out data through our API in JSON format, just like we did for our myUser model earlier. So let's go to our serializers.py file. So you see it here, and you can see the ones we built before for our user registration and user profile. So I'm going to create a new one here, and we're going to call it class post serializer. It's going to take in serializers.model serializer, and then we have to import our post model, so we can do the same as we've done here. So do class meta, the model which we're going to be serializing, so that's going to be our post, and then the fields we want to pass through. So if we look at our post model, we want to pass through the user, description, the time it was created, and then likes, okay. So we'll do user, description, created at, and likes. So got that there. Now just like we did with our serializer for our profile, where we created a follower and following count, we want to do the same thing for our post serializer so that we can get a like count. And we also want to get the user that has created the post as well, the username that has created the post. So if we do that, call it username equals, just like we did a serializers dot serializer method field, and then just like we did before, we have to create a function which is get underscore before our variable name, pass in self and object, then we'll return the object dot user, as that's what we've labeled it here, dot username, and then we can pass in the username here. I'll tell you what, we don't actually need the user, we can just pass this as username. And then we want to create another one called like count. Just copy and paste this, it's going to be the same. Then we create a new function called get like count. And we want to return object dot likes, as it's likes here, and then dot count. So we're actually going to return the likes here, as we're going to want that later to see if a user has liked this post or not, as we can go through the array of users and check if our user is in it. So we're going to keep that there, and you'll see that later why we use that. But then we're just going to put in like count as well. Now, one more thing I also want to add is that this created at attribute we have here, when we do this, it puts it in not a neat format. It's going to be a long string of the day and time. So we want to format that date when we before we pass it through to our front end, so it looks a bit neater. So we have the day, month, and year. So if we do formatted date, do the same thing as before and create a function for it. We want to turn the object.created at, and then what we're going to do here is do something called string f time, which allows us to format dates in Django. So it's a library we're provided with. So string f time, and then we're going to pass in these. So this is for day, month, and year. Okay. Now we can pass in this instead of created at, so we'll do formatted date, and that is our serializer created. So now we've got our serializer created, we want to create our API that gets all the posts for a user when we visit their page. So we're going to be getting the posts of a specific user and returning those posts. So we need to go to our views. Just like before, we're going to create a new API. We're going to have to import our new model in Serializer. So we'll do post and post Serializer, and then we're going to scroll down to the bottom and create our new API. So we'll do at API view. We'll make a get request. Then at permission classes, we need to be authenticated to use this API. Then get users posts. Okay, so we're getting a specific user's posts, and as we're doing a get request, we want to pass in the user's username of the user profile we're at, and we need to pass their username through the URL, just like we've done for get user profile data, so you can see here. And then we want to do the same thing we've done here, where we get the user and we need to actually check if they exist or not, and then handle the error if they don't. So you can see here we've got a try catch. We get the user for the username we pass through, as this is the primary key, and then we get that user, and now we can access user data. So now what I want to do is use the related name posts to get all this user's posts. So we can do this by posts equal user dot posts dot all. So that's getting all the posts the user has, but we also want to order these so the newer posts are at the top, okay? So it's ordered in terms of when it was created. So we can order by the created app attribute, okay? And then we want to pass this through our serializer. And as it's going to be an array of posts, we need to state many is going to be true. And then we can return a response with our serializer data, which is going to be an array of all our posts, okay? So now this is just the API. We need to create a route so we can call this API from our front end. So if I go to URLs, I'm going to import our new API. So we get user posts and then create a route for this. So we'll do user, we'll do posts slash, just like this. So posts, and then we need to pass in the username ID that we're passing through, or the username we're passing through. So get users posts. Now we've created that. I also want to be able to view this in our admin console so that we can just add posts straight away. So I'm going to go into my admin.py. As you can see, we did this for our user. And then just copy and paste this. Okay, so we've done that. Now, the last thing we need to do before we start looking at what we've done, just want to bring this up here, go create a new terminal, go into our backend, and we need to make some migrations as we've created a new post model. So do Python 3 manage.py make migrations. You can see we've created our new post model, and then Python 3 manage.py migrate, and now we migrated it into our database. So I'm just going to bring this down. I'm going to go to our browser here, and don't want that, we want admin. So if I log into our admin console, you can see we've got our new posts here, we've got our users here, we've got our posts here, and we haven't got any posts. So I'm going to create a new post for MattMakesCode. It's just going to be my first post, and it's not going to have any likes yet, so we'll just save. Now if we go to our new API, so it was API slash posts slash MattMakesCode, I believe. I can double check. We're not authenticated, so we need to log in as well. So we do token, put in our details. Now we're logged in. You can see we've got our post, okay? So we've only got one post, but it's got all our data. It's got our username, it's got our formatted date. You can see the 15th of November. So we did it in a way where you only show the first three letters of 24, so 2024. Now, the next thing I want to do is, now we've created our API, is actually start showing this on our front end. So when I log into my account, so this is my profile here, I want to have my posts under my profile details. So let's head back into our code. I'm gonna close our backend and go into our front end, and go into source, go open up endpoints, as we're going to be calling our new API, and I'm going to go into our new route, our user profile route. Okay, just close this. So, oh, I didn't actually you have to double click it in VS Code. Okay. So first thing we're going to do is create our new route. So we've got some GET requests here. I'm just going to copy and paste this to save time. So get posts. We need to pass in a username, and we've done it like here. So it's posts, which we're calling, I believe. Yeah, posts with our username, and now I'll do users posts, just like that. So now we've got this API endpoint. We can go into our user profile, and I want to create a new part of our profile page, like I said before, which is going to be below our user data, which is going to show our posts. So if I create a new section, and we'll keep it the same, I might just change this to 30, and we're going to have a new component here. So we scroll down, create a new component, and we'll do user posts. It's going to take in our username, as we're going to have to call our posts with our username. It's going to return the code we're going to pass through. So if I actually just implement this, so we have user posts, then username is username, okay, so this is going to show our code for this. I'm just going to put all our posts in a flex, so just to get rid of that error. Now we can do like we've done before, where we got our profile data. You can see here we fetched our data in a try catch finally, so we want some sort of loading while we're getting the posts. So we'll do it like this. We'll have a state, which is going to be an array of our posts. So set posts equals use state, and initially it's just going to be empty. We want a loading, set loading, and initially it's going to be true, okay, because we want to be loading straight away. And then we need a use effect to call our API when we load our page. So what we do is do fetch posts which is going to be a function. Then we'll call this every time our page loads, and we want to do this in a try catch finally. So in our try, we're going to call our API to get user posts. This needs to be asynchronous. We're going to pass in our username of the posts we're going to be getting, so it's this profile, and then we want to set posts to the data that's returned. So however, if for some reason it fails, we want to alert error getting users posts. And then finally, once either of these has happened, we want to set loading to false, as we've got the data now. So that was just fetch. We want to fetch posts. Okay. So this is happening when the page loads, but we're not actually loading our posts at the moment. So what we're going to do in here is load our posts. So we can do this with a JavaScript map. So we do posts.map. Then for each post in the array, we're going to return just some text with the post.description. Okay, that looks okay to me. However, we also need to put it in a loading. So if we're not loading anymore, we want to return this. However, if we are loading, then we will just return some text saying loading. Okay, and we don't need this anymore. Okay, so if we go here, and you can already see we have a list of our posts here. So at the moment, obviously this doesn't look very pretty, and we need to add stuff like a like button and the username who's posted it and the date and all that. So if we're going to do that, it's probably best practice to create a whole new component called post, and we can start building out the style like we have here. Okay, so let's go back into our code. Then we're going to go into components, create a new component called post.js. Then we want to create post. We're gonna export this, and we need to pass a few things through. So we're going to pass in the username of the post, we're going to pass in the description of the post, some bad spelling there, there you go. So we can actually just look at our serializer for all the data we're passing through. So we're going to pass through formatted date, likes, and like count. Okay. So we can return just a visual stack of all this data so we can show what we're presenting. So that went wrong. Okay. This is obviously not how it's going to look, but it's just so that we can show it on our front end and we haven't got any errors. So if we go into our user profile, instead of returning text, we need to import our post model. And we can create a post. And we'll pass in all of these attributes. So username is going to be the post.username. Description equals post.description, and so on, so on. Then it was let's close this view. There you are. So we have the username, description, formatted date, likes, and like count. Then when we use a map in JavaScript, we just have to add a key. Okay. This is just something we have to do in JavaScript, and we can just set this to the post.username. Actually, we'll do post.id. Sorry. Saying that, let me just check our serializer. Yeah. Going back to our serializer, sorry I forgot to mention this, we also need to pass in an ID of the post, and ID comes with Django as default for models, so all models will have an ID set for them when they're created. So we can define it with our ID, and that's how we're going to call each post as well. So if I go back to here, we just need to import text from Chakra in our post component. Then you can see we got our username, our description, our date, and our like count. And the reason why likes isn't showing is because it's actually an object, so it's not going to show on the front end. And we're not going to need to show this, we're only using it to check if we have liked the post, okay? And we'll get onto that later. So now we've got our data here. What I want to do is actually create the styling for our post as we have here, okay? So let's just actually build this out. So give me a second. So if I just build out the kind of the structure of it, I'll get rid of these. So we're gonna have a visual stack as like the base, as we're gonna have our header, our main body, and our footer all vertically on top of each other. Now, so we'll just create our header here. So this will be our header, as it's going to be a horizontal stack. So we're going to have our username, and then we can have stuff on top of it if you like. Then in our body, we're going to have a flex, as we want to center our our text, our description. Then our footer is just going to be a flex as well. We're just going to have a horizontal stack inside. And this is because we want to center our like count, and our date, and then we want them to be horizontally separated from each other, okay? So with that, we can actually start putting stuff in it. So we'll put in our username. Okay. Just import stuff we're using. And also put this in text. So we've got that here. Then in flex, we want some more text with our description. And then our horizontal stack, we're going to have another horizontal stack, which is going to separate our like count, and it's also going to separate a button to like our post, okay? So I'll put that into some text as well. So we've got this button here, and we just call it like. Later on we'll style it so it actually has a heart or something like that. Okay, so we import button. So we got like my first post. Now we want to build some actual like sizing to it. So if we make the width of our post 400 pixels, and then the height also 400 pixels, we want to have a border around it, and you can see that here. We'll make that border color a bit lighter, just look a bit nicer. So we'll make it gray.400, and then we'll make the edges a bit more curved. So it looks like that. Now we need to separate all of these. So if we do, the width is going to be 100%. Otherwise, this username is going to be centered. So you can see it goes to the side here. Now we want to establish some flexes. So this will establish the size it takes up. So at the moment, you can see without the flex, they're all just on top of each other. Now we want the body to have the most space, and then we can even it out with our header and footer. So we'll give flex 1 to the header. To the main body, we'll give the most, so let's say 6. And then to our footer, we'll say 2. It's going to need a bit more space than the header. So it's going to look like that. Now, with our description, we want to do the same thing, have width 100%, height also 100%. We want to center the text. So this is how we're going to center with these here. You see we've got the in the center there. Now that looks actually pretty good. And then one thing we also need to do is just text align your text here to be in the center. Okay. So the text is going to be created like center like. And then we can start editing our header. So we want to have a border bottom here, just like we got here. So if I do border bottom, 1 pixel solid. And then we'll make the border color gray.300. We'll give some padding to the sides a bit. So we'll do just 20 pixels. And then I'm also going to change the background. So we'll do gray.50, very light gray. So that looks good now, but you can see we've got this problem here, and it's just because we need to make the edges curved as well. So we'll make the top edges curved and the bottom ones not. And we can do this with border radius. And we're going to do 8 pixels, 8 pixels. So these are the top two corners. See, we don't get that anymore. So that's the header done. Just put an @ before the username. And then we can start styling our footer instead. So we want to center everything. So we're just going to do width equals 100%. Do justify content, center. We're going to do align items, so center, and then we also want a border top, border color, equals gray.300, or we'll do 400. Then we need to do the same thing with our border radius, but it's going to be the reverse this time, as it's going to be the bottom two. So we'll just do 0, 0, 8 pixel, 8 pixel. Okay. So that looks pretty good. Now, if I make the width here 100%, you can see that these go straight to the side. We also want to put some space between them horizontally. Let's do space between. Sorry, I haven't actually added the date here. So formatted date. So you got that in there. And then we want to make the width a bit smaller than 100% here, so that it doesn't cover the whole width. So we just do 90%. It's going to be like a container, just like this. Okay. So that's looking pretty good. We're also going to make the background here same as the header, gray.50. So pretty happy with that right now. So next thing we can do is add an heart icon here. So if we go to React icons, your browser, you can see we got loads of different icons here. So I'm going to do this full heart here. Just import this. Then we want to find the empty one here. Okay. Okay. So now for the time being, we'll just use this one. So don't need that. Let's have a box. And then just bring our terminal up here, go into our front end just to install React icons. So npm install React icons. And we'll just give this a size. Actually, it might be alright. Let's check. Install box. Don't need button anymore. There we go, we've got a heart there, but it's not going to be doing anything at the moment. So that's looking good for our post. Just want to create a couple more. So to make it MattMakesCode, do second post. Okay, I did that so you can see it here. I can create a few more. So third post. We'll do fourth post. Okay. So you can see that here. We don't want that. We just want to have some posts, and then they'll wrap like go under each other as we go along, and the page will just extend. Okay. So if we go into our user profile, we're gonna have to edit this flex here. So what we'll do is we'll make the width 100% of its container. We want to align items to, we'll do, actually I should be, alright, we'll do wrap equals wrap. So we'll go to the next, just like this. And then we need a gap between them, so we'll do 30 pixels. So it looks like that. And then if we scroll down here, you can see we've got no space, so we'll just add 50 pixels to the bottom of the screen. So we've got that space there. So that's looking pretty good. I'm just gonna add a bit more space here. So if I go up here and add 50 pixels instead of 30, looks a lot better. Okay. So now we've got our posts, and this is looking really good. What we want to do is create this like functionality here. So obviously this doesn't do anything, and we haven't even created an API for it. So that's what we got to do. We're going to go back into our VS Code, and we're going to create an API to be able to like the posts. So if we go into views, we're going to create a new API, and just do the same as all the rest. It's going to be a post request. Permission classes. Toggle like. Now we want to get the post that we want. So just like always, we need to check if the post we're getting exists. So we're going to pass through the post ID when we call this API. So we'll do post is post.objects.get, and we'll do pk equals, and we'll do id equals request.data, do id, and then return with this. Post does not exist. Okay. So we've got the post. Now we want to toggle the like. So if we have liked the post, then we want to unlike it. If we haven't liked it, we want to like it. So in order to do that, we're going to have to get the user who's liking the posts and check if that user is in the post likes. Okay, so just copy this. So we'll also pass the user's username who's trying to like the post or unlike the post. So we've got the user. Now to check if they're in it, we just need to check if they're in the post likes. So if we do if user in post.likes.all, this is the array of users that have liked the post. Just from our model here, you can see that. So if we are in the likes, that means we've already liked it. So we need to remove them. So we'll do post.likes.remove user. Then we will need to return something. So return response. We'll do now liked. And as we've just unliked it, basically, we'll say false. So now we've liked it, no. Then else, if they're not in it, then Just copy and paste this. It's going to be the opposite. We'll just add the user to the liked array, and now liked is going to be true. Okay, and then always handle the edge case. We'll do okay. So it looks pretty good. So just before we actually call this post, we want to be able to add the toggle to our front end here as well. So at the moment, we can't tell if we've liked this post already on the front end. So basically we want a heart that's empty if we haven't liked it, and a heart that's full if we have liked it. So we need to tell the post if our user is in the likes. So when we create our get user posts, we're gonna have to edit the post that we're sending a bit. So we're just gonna add a little extra data that's gonna tell us if we have liked it or not. So to do that, I'm gonna create an extra array called data. We're gonna go through the serializer array of all the different posts. We're gonna check if our user is in the posts likes, and if they are, we'll add liked as true, and if they're not, we'll add liked as false. And then that way, we're gonna be able to add this full or empty heart on the front end. So for post in serializer.data, we want to create a new object, and if our before we do this, we'd actually grab our user. So just going to create my user. Okay. Then we want to check if my user is in .username is in post likes. So if it's in here, then we want to create our new post object to have the old serializer data. So we have the data we would have had anyway, but we'll add one extra attribute called liked, which is going to be set to true. Else, liked is going to be false. Okay. Now we want to append this new post to our data. So now this is a list of all our posts, but instead of where it is in serialized model where it's just got all of its data, each post also has either liked true or liked false, depending if our logged in user has liked the post or not. So return data instead. And now we can actually go into our front end and call this from our front end. So I'm going to go into models, not models, user profile, and we're going to pass in something else. Instead of likes, we're going to pass in liked, and we'll pass in post.liked. So that's what we just created in our views. So liked. If we go to our post, change this for liked. Now, like I said, we want to show the full heart if we've already liked it, and the empty heart if we haven't. So we'll do liked. So if we've liked it, we want to show the full heart. If we haven't, we show the empty one. So I'll get this here. Okay. getting an error there. Post.liked. If we bring up our Python, it's because we haven't check here. Yeah, it's because we're not meant to be passing out the serializer data, sorry. This is a list of all the posts. We're meant to be returning the extended version of post, okay? As this is what has all the data. It's my bad. Okay. So refresh this, we've got all the posts. Now, obviously this isn't going to change because there's no likes in our posts, but we can change that. So if we go into our admin, we're going to add MattMakesCode is like this. So you see MattMakesCode is like this. Now if I refresh, you can see that we've liked this, okay? So we've liked it. Now, if I now go into our endpoints and then create our API to like our post, and we have to pass in the ID of the post, and I believe that's it. Yep. So it's going to be a post request. Sorry. We just check URLs. We also need to create the API here. So if I do toggle like, just quickly create a path. So we can call this from our endpoints. We don't pass any data in the URL. We can just pass it through a body instead. So we'll do ID is ID. We'll return our response.data, which is going to be now liked, as we have here. That means we can update our front end straight away. So if we go into our post, we want to create new to states, and this is going to be the client side liked and the client side like count, as we want to update our liked and like count straight away when we click our like button, because if we don't, then it's going to take a while for our API to reach us and it'll be delayed and not look very good. So if we create these, you'll see what I mean. By client, I just mean the front end. Okay. So this is going to be default set to liked, and then client like count. Okay. So we got these. Now we want to show client liked and client like count. We want to show these instead, and we're going to create our toggle like button to toggle here. So if we make this asynchronous, now we want to call our toggle like API. So if we just import that, then call it here. So grab the data. We need to pass in the ID of the post, so we just need to pass it in here, and then also pass it in here as well, as we haven't done that yet. Okay. So we passed in the ID, and we've called toggle like, so that's gonna like the post in the back end. Now we need to do the actions on the front end to add one on the front end if we've liked it, and say that we've liked it as well if now liked is true, which we got from here. So if now liked is true, we've added the user, and they should have an extra like, and we've now liked it. So if data.now liked, then we want to set client liked to true, and we want to set client like count to the current like count plus 1. However, if we've unliked it, then we set client liked to false, and set client like count to client like count minus 1. And then we can call this so from our buttons, so on click, handle, toggle liked, then just copy and paste that now. So you need to import use state, now if I like it, so that means we've thrown an error, we haven't done it correctly, so that would be in the backend. If I just look here, yeah, okay, so this is our problem. We're meant to be passing our username as data through our body, but we shouldn't be doing this. This was an error I made earlier. So we should do just request user.username. Okay. Now hopefully when we like, see we get 1, and then we unlike, get 0. So if I like and refresh, you see it stays there. So one more thing I just want to change, just for a design purpose, I just want to change this full heart to red. So we just need to surround this in a box, and then make the color of the box red. So we'll do color equals red. Now you can see I can like posts. I can even go to Jodo. If we make a post for Jodo, we'll say Joe's first post. You can see that they've got a post, and if I like that, there you go. So that's the end of the tutorial. You can really see it's starting to shape up, the app's starting to shape up, and this should finish in a couple videos time, where we will also be deploying the app. So yeah, thanks for sticking along if you have been, and I'll see you in the next video when we are going to be creating a homepage where all the posts are going to be displayed, and it's going to have a scroll load just like Instagram. When you get to the bottom, you'll be able to load more, meaning you won't load loads at a time, which is really going to be beneficial for the performance of your app. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.